Well, good morning, everybody. She absolutely nailed my last name, so now onus is on me to get hers right. Thanks a lot. Um, I'm also a member of the Mukilteo Chamber Board, and I really appreciate you all being here today. Aside from the sacrifices and investments of my parents, the most significant investment that was made in me when I was growing up was by the Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce. I went to their luncheon. There was this program that I saw referenced in a movie. A show. This is gonna make me sound awfully nerdy, and I am. I used to be cool though. I did cool things, but I was watching an episode of The West Wing when I was growing up, and they had on there this episode where everybody got locked down in the White House, and there was this tour group of children, part of something called Presidential Classroom. And that's an organization that's existed for many decades, and they still exist today. I took great interest in it. I looked it up online when the internet was still text-based, and decided that was something I really wanted to do. But there were many requirements that were part of it. One of them was that I had to pay for it, and my parents were early teachers back when teachers, they're still not paid enough, but when they really weren't getting paid well. And I needed to go find outside help for that. I also needed to bring up my grades to have a cumulative GPA that would fit into the program. So I worked on the grades, I worked really hard on that, and was successful, but the money part was elusive. And so I finally contacted the Oak Harbor Chamber because I decided I'd go where the money was, which is with businesses. Some of you may disagree, and hit them up there, made a presentation on what I wanted to do. This wasn't part of their scholarship program, they just gave me a few minutes to talk. And it was a guy named Joe Mazzolino, who some of you in the real estate world might know. He operates a number of Windermere outfits on Whidbey Island and other locations. But he kind of started this rally among the business owners that were in the room, and they financed my trip. And I've served now 20 years in some kind of capacity with federal and local governments. And I think frequently and fondly of the community that made an investment in me, and I hope I have the opportunity to repay that in my community and to them over the years. So thank you very much for being here. Membership matters, and you guys being active members in your community is incredibly important at a time where some of our membership organizations are starting to decline. So thank you very much for being here. It's very important to your community, and hopefully it's also a beneficial investment for you all too. Thank you. So my name is Admiral Mew. I'm here representing the port today because Kat Soper, who you probably know, is just suffering a ladies' trip to Hawaii right now. So let's pass around a napkin and maybe send our condolences. So I'm filling in for her and her talented team who are getting ready for a number of our public events that are starting up this summer. And hopefully I can do it some justice. Some of this you've already heard before. I know that we've presented on various topics in the past. I'm going to be presenting generally on what we're doing, and then I'll get into some of our fun seasonal activities that everybody can enjoy. So we were formed by the voters. The Port District was formed by the voters in 1918. It's a special purpose district, which is a unit of local government, so we are a government organization, and we are exclusively tasked with economic development. We are a taxing district, and I want you to keep this in the back of your mind. We collect just under $6 million in property taxes every year. And that's the extent of the public dollars that we collect as a government. And so when you think about all of the things you're about to see and how we use that $6 million investment, I hope you can see and would agree that it is that we're leveraging tax dollars in a big way to bring back economic development for the area. Our taxing district is pretty small. We have most of Everett city limits and half of Mukilteo and Hat Island randomly for reasons I still haven't figured out. So kind of a small area. We are the Port of Everett. We represent two communities, and most of you probably aren't part of that district right now unless you're from downtown Everett. We are a rather significant seaport installation, which I think catches some folks by surprise. Because our seaport facilities are kind of tucked away behind a bluff and aren't front and center in the community. We are responsible for up to, this changes every year, but up to 21 billion with a B in exports every year. That makes us the 5th largest customs district by value on the West Coast. And I fully understand that West Coast, oh, it's corrected here. On my slides at home, it said West Coast as a coast with an S. Thought they were setting me up. Yeah, okay. There's going to be others, I'm sure. We support over 40,000 jobs in the region. We don't have 40,000 jobs, but when we are moving big parts for Boeing, we're going to claim some of their job numbers. The impact then kind of goes beyond. So when I talk about trade and why trade is important and why export numbers are important, we know that if you work in a job that is accessing foreign markets to sell your goods or services, your employees are generating about 18% more than someone who is not involved in international trade. Those 40,000 jobs are supporting about 4.7 billion in incomes, personal incomes. One thing that I get excited about, because I am a nerd, is that we generate around, because of the activities that rely on our seaport, we generate around $433 million in state and local taxes that I'm going to say you all don't have to pay, but as businesses, you might disagree a little bit on that. But it's $433 million of public benefit throughout Washington State and here in Snohomish County that we as homeowners or renters aren't having to pay for those services. And I think it's a great thing. So we are a unit of local government. We are governed by 3 elected commissioners. They have staggered 6-year terms. And they have 1 employee, and that's our CEO, Lisa Lefebvre. And then I, of course, work for her. The port is powered by our land holdings, and this is a bit of a jumbled photo down below, but you can see the waterfront there. In the top left corner is a photo inset of our Blue Heron Slough, and the on the right is our land holdings in Mukilteo. Our seaport is divided by 2 separate facilities. We, of course, have the main seaport in Everett, below the bluff, and then we have land holdings in Mukilteo adjacent to our Mount Baker terminal, where we are a dedicated supply chain component for Boeing. So ships come into Everett, they load off the Boeing cargo, it sits until Boeing says they're ready for it. When they say they're ready for it, a barge appears. We load the barge with their containers that are usually twice as wide or twice as tall or twice as wide and tall as a normal container that you'd see on a truck somewhere. And we barge it down to Mukilteo where they put it on a dedicated rail line up to the factory. That's kind of our bread and butter. But we've been diversifying over the last 7 years as a result of some of the investments that we've had so we can keep up with any of the unforeseen challenges in the one specific sector that we've primarily served. So we strive to maintain a working waterfront. We understand that 60% of the jobs in Snohomish County are tied to trade, and that Snohomish County is the most trade-dependent county in Washington State. This is it's a brag post for people in the port world, but it's pretty cool. I think it does a good job identifying how we aren't like a Port of Seattle, Port of Longview container port that most of us become familiar with. We are the 3rd largest container port in Washington State, but while we move about 20,000 TEUs, like a standard 20-foot container, Seattle and Tacoma are moving hundreds of thousands. So we're a very distant 3rd from them. Our primary cargo is project-based cargoes. So this goofy-looking thing is an LNG, a natural gas fuel storage tank that actually goes on ships. But we're being manufactured in the U.S. and being shipped overseas. Our talented workforce of longshoremen have skills in moving large, heavy, and expensive cargoes that go into building large infrastructure or into factories, or it's the heavy equipment that is used in creating those things. This is just kind of a fun slide to explain our cargo since we aren't a standard container port. We do move containers, but the one that you see up there in the top left corner, that's a 53-foot container. That is a much bigger container that we typically are moving through a seaport, which are these little 20-foot boxes. We move break bulk. Break bulk is anything that can't fit inside a container. In this case, we're moving, this is a confusing photo for me because We have another photo there that talks about row. That excavator that's being pulled off can be considered row, but because it didn't fit in a container on the specific ship, it's considered break bulk. We move products related to energy, energy exploration, and then we move a lot of the really big transformers that are making huge investments in our grid. So really big stuff in the energy sector. We are a commercial strategic seaport, so we move a lot of military cargoes. We've always traditionally moved military cargo because we handle the big stuff that doesn't fit in a normal ship. But with our new designation that we achieved in 2021, we're moving some more of the traditional military cargoes you might think of, like MRAP personnel carriers or tanks or support units. We also move a lot of bulk. What you see in that photo is wood pulp that's going overseas to be turned into cardboard to send us stuff back. And then we do row, which is roll on, roll off. So we move a lot of agricultural products like tractors, excavators, bulldozers, all those sorts of things move through the port of Everett. We'd really like to get into that sweet automobile business too. So if we can start moving cars, that'd be great. And then that way, if one falls off, we can just take it home, right? So I talked to you a little bit about how we've been trying to diversify our business lines, not because we need to get away from Boeing, but because for every ship that comes in, we can turn that investment that they pay us to unload their cargoes into capital investments that benefit our community and our waterfront. So in the last 10 years, we've invested about $150 million on the seaport. This was really localized in the South Terminal modernization, which is the top left corner. That involves strengthening it actually to handle the heavier Boeing components for the 777, and then putting in 2 new large cranes that can work with some larger ships that are carrying those goods. We built the Norton Terminal expansion, which was the first real cargo terminal that's been built on the West Coast in many decades because we're not creating new waterfront. And we made investments that would help us meet the strategic seaport requirements to be able to move those military cargoes. And then, of course, we make a lot of investments in rail. You all know very well how close or interconnected or intersected we are by the BNSF mainline. It is the edge of our seaport as well, and so if we want to do anything by rail, we have to build our own rail network on our terminals to do that, and that could be a spendy thing to do. When I talk, I'm actually surprised I was even invited back. Maybe it was a surprise, because last time I spoke to the Marysville business community was at the Small Business Summit, and I gave a really uplifting forecast about how tariffs were going to impact the community. And some things I got slightly wrong, other things I got very right, and it's very disappointing today. But those tariff impacts are real, and they are hitting us as well. Like I said, we're moving the big components that are going into large manufacturers, into large manufacturing facilities and major infrastructure investments. And because of some of the cost uncertainty associated with tariff policy right now, and just how expensive financing can be, we've had a significant hit to our seaport operations. We're down about 30%. But there are things that we can continue doing. Luckily, we do have Boeing in our backyard, and they are still selling our airplanes. So we are keeping things moving down there, but we are able to offer tools for local businesses that are involved in the manufacturing of things, the export of items, or you need the raw materials from overseas. We have something called a foreign trade zone, the FTZ, and bonded warehouses. And that one, please don't ask me any questions on, because I will get it wrong. I know the general principles, but if you are in the manufacturing of any kind of item and you're bringing products in from overseas, you can locate those products in our foreign trade zone, which is just a simple barbed wire chain link fence in our terminal. And while the product is sitting there, it's not getting charged a tariff. And you can do a couple different things with that. You can manufacture your product, put it back in the FTZ and send it overseas without a tariff impact, or you can locate the product there and then slowly pull it when you need, because you didn't need a full shipping container full of that widget. You just need 100 widgets a month out of that container. You can leave it there and then only get tariffed on the items that you need as you need it, so you can control your costs throughout the year. If you have any questions about an FTZ or our bonded warehouses, I will fake the answer to the second one, and I will get you real answers on the first. So see me after. So we have responsibilities to our environment. I was listening to when I was early in the job, I was listening to Lisa talk, and I know that she misspoke, but it stuck with me. She said, everything we touch is contaminated, which just sounds like a terrible Midas touch. What she meant was all of our land holdings have been contaminated because our waterfront was like a lot of waterfronts in Puget Sound. It was full of mills, and there's just legacy contaminations that are in there. If you've been to the Everett waterfront, and you've seen the new development there, you've walked the waterfront paths, all of that land was contaminated at one time to the point where weeds wouldn't grow. And thanks to a vigilant group of trail users, we hear regularly that weeds are growing. So things have improved. We're working on that. But we're still making investments today, not only on the existing land holdings, but in some more complicated, more challenging and technical ways. We are making investments in our seaport to electrify some of our facilities so that ships that are expecting to plug in instead of using their auxiliary power can do so. We are also investing in electric or zero emission cargo handling equipment that operates a little quieter, and then of course without emissions at our seaport. We are embarking on the state's largest in-water cleanup, which is our Mill A site, which is a site of a historic wood mill operation that is going to clean up the bulk of the waterfront in front of our seaport terminals, which is a complicated undertaking. And then they keep throwing this photo up on my presentations called the Smart Tech Pilot, and one day I'll learn what that is. But it is it's trying to figure out how our equipment operates on the seaport to see if we can't improve how our operations impact either slowing us down, creating congestion, or creating unnecessary emissions and wasting fuel that we don't need to. So this is the fun stuff, I think. This is when we're talking about our destination waterfront and our marina. We are the largest publicly operated marina on the West Coast. We have about 2,300 slips for folks' boats. And it is it's a public investment that is, our whole waterfront is a public investment that is done with that $6 million investment by the community, and then the millions of dollars that are generated at our seaport. The $6 million in tax collection we primarily use we exclusively use for capital projects, public access, and environmental restoration. So my salary and any of the other stuff that we do at the port is primarily funded by our seaport. This is a hard photo to see from up close, but it's a hard photo to see from your seats too. From left to right is the transition of the Everett waterfront. You can see on the left there lots of smokestacks and manufacturing work going on down below. In the middle there, it all started to get kind of cleaned up as, frankly, buildings caught on fire, but also the industry left town. And then you can see the waterfront as it exists close to today on the right. Since that photo, we've opened up a number of new restaurants in our restaurant row, and we are preparing for a rather large development I'll get into here shortly. And I always screw these things up. How many did I do? Okay. So we have worked very hard on trying to create a balanced waterfront. And this is part of the vision that was set by our leadership and commission about 20 years ago to try and look at all of our land holdings and see how we can maintain industrial and manufacturing jobs, bring the recreation that people wanted from the Everett waterfront, and the other commercial activities that people were expecting from these land holdings. So we developed a balanced waterfront approach that is making sure that this is a place where you can work, play, and live if you want to, or come visit on a beautiful day like yesterday. We've invested about $350 million in this site so far, including our cleanups. We've installed about $20 million in roads and infrastructure to support private investment, and are working with a developer who is going to round out the $1 billion with a B dollar investment in the orange square in the middle, or the orange polygon in the middle. It's Millwright Phase 2. These are some brag photos that we like to rub in other ports' faces. This is some examples of our waterfront esplanade. Some of you may be familiar with our trail system down there. Some sites from our new restaurants. A great shot of Jetty Island, which is, if you're not going to believe me when I say it, but it is a long piece of sandy, warm water beach in Puget Sound. It's warm because it's so shallow out there in the mudflats, it just heats up on a sunny day. So if you need to feel like you're cat and in Hawaii, you can take our ferry over to Jetty Island and dip your toes in the warm Puget Sound. Recently, we have completed a number of our restaurants on Restaurant Row. That includes Menchie's, Rustic Cork, The Net Shed, and Tapped Public House. All those folks opened up in the last 2 quarters. And then we have been eagerly awaiting the opening of Marina Azul. If you're familiar with any of the other Azul locations in Snohomish County, they are creating a similar concept, but this one a little bit more appropriately placed at a marina. So expect a little bit more seafood in there, as well as some of their other options. We are working really hard to get free chips and salsa for port staff. This is exciting for boaters. We have, sorry as I jump around here. Oh, I caught up in my notes. All right. We have a new marina fuel dock. This is important for any boaters that are out there on the water and forgot to fill up before you would go out. Don't do that. It's cheaper on land. But this is a great amenity that we made an investment in because it's heavily used not only by our boaters, but by law enforcement, our regulatory agencies, and the Coast Guard and Navy use it pretty frequently. So that's a significant investment. It's very expensive to build a dock. It's even more expensive when you put hazardous materials in it. And it's a fine accomplishment to our staff and a valuable asset on the water. So I talked about the next step, which is going to be a private investment in the phase 2 part of the Millwright District, and I didn't even push the button that time. Let me get back there. This is going to be kind of a revolutionary change on the waterfront for us. This is going to include about 60,000 square feet of retail space, 120,000 square feet of commercial office space, and then another 313 units of housing on the waterfront. So bringing more people down there, more capacity for folks looking to live near the water and in downtown Everett, and then new opportunities for commerce. It's going to be pretty exciting down there. I'm sure the staff gave me, yep, look at that. There's some pretty photos of the housing that we anticipate to be breaking ground here soon. This is the retail, which is going to be kind of on the water side with a lot of interesting public spaces in between. This is the commercial office area associated with it. It's got a kind of a cool flow through that if it's built as designed. And then this is a slide. You can absolutely come talk to me about it. I'll give you a screaming deal because I'm not actually allowed to talk about leases, and I don't know how. But Tara Hayes is with me today. She's in the middle there. If you are interested in leasing office space, please talk to her. Phase 3 is going to be closer to the water. That is, it's several years off. We have prepared the site. I'm sorry to any of you who wanted a chunk of wood from the Everett Conference Center in case you got married there or had prom there or know somebody who got married or had prom there. It was a condemned building, so we tore it down, created a bigger public space out there for folks to access the water, and mostly for kids to just tear around in circles on their scooters. And then we look to develop that with a hospitality site in the future, maybe a hotel, maybe a higher end restaurant. And that phase will also include some, hopefully, condominiums, if not more apartments, and a redevelopment of our boxcar park. So if you've been down to the port, you're familiar, there's always some project, some kind of capital project going on. We've got one exciting one that I think we're all going to be very happy to be done with, which is Segment E. This is the last piece of timber bulkhead that was failing, and it was supporting the highway. It was becoming a huge risk for the safety of the highway and then, of course, our own infrastructure. So we have rebuilt the bulkhead that's underneath the wharf in that photo. We've expanded the wharf itself, put in a few more creature comforts for humans, and that is the site of our free summer concert series. And so we have more space for people because that has grown to about 3,500 to 5,000 people every Thursday night during the summer. It's a lot of fun. It's free. And we needed more space. So very happy to have that project completed. We are in the process of rebuilding our boat launch. So if any of you are launching your boats on the Everett waterfront, you'll start to notice soon some new floats that are an easier way to maintain for us, and ought to put another 60 years into that boat launch. We've also, as you may have seen, started a pilot project with the Port of South Whidbey to launch a passenger ferry service, a pilot that will only be around for the summertime. You can book your tickets now through our website. It's not a huge sailing list. I think it's twice a day, but you can head over to Langley and check out what they've got going on, or hopefully the good folks of South Whidbey can come on over here and spend their dollars. We also have Blue Heron Slough, which is adjacent to Quileute Restoration, which is here in your backyard. That was we'll call it the second largest restoration site, tidally influenced restoration site in Snohomish County. The North Tide Flats is she says I have a laser. I do. It's right about there. And those tide flats, we are looking at how to best use it. That's not a natural setup there. That those tide flats might have always been muddy, but the way how the water works in there is not a natural flow. And we are working with the Army Corps of Engineers and EPA and Department of Ecology to try and figure out what the best use of that is. And right now, it kind of sounds like restoring pouring new sediment on the beach and creating a beach there is actually the right thing to do to restoring that spot. So we're constantly dredging the river, which goes to the benefit of river users, but then also some of the private industry that exists on the river. And we have to put that sediment somewhere. And so it's called beneficial reuse, where we'll pull that stuff out of the river, get it out of the way of commerce, and then put it up on the beach there to restore some of the natural function and maybe create some enhancements for us to enjoy as well. And then the Mukilteo waterfront. We are the Port of Everett, but we have half of Mukilteo in our district. And we are working with the city of Mukilteo and the Tulalip tribes to put that former tank farm. So it used to be jet fuel for the Army operated, but it was jet fuel that went up to Payne Field to power the planes. That is a contaminated site that has been turned over to the Port of Everett. We put part of it back to State Ferries, which built the new Mukilteo Ferry Terminal. And we're working with the city and the tribes to figure out how we can develop that site together to maximize the land that's there, to put more public access on the Mukilteo waterfront, and to kind of hide parking away. Because we don't like turning waterfront into parking lots. If we have that space, we want to turn it into recreation and commerce. And so hopefully we can land on a bargain that gets all three of us investing at the same time in a coordinated fashion so that we can maximize the waterfront for the folks of Mukilteo. Real estate. The port owns about 3,400 acres, primarily in Everett and Mukilteo. About 1,000 acres of that has been developed or is developable. Over half of our properties are dedicated to habitat in some form, and the other half is for public access. So we spend a lot of time when we're building out our trail systems, we're building out our parks, making sure that it's accessible to the public, and that even if it is just a retail operation, that even the approach has somewhere for kids to play, has space for people to take a load off and enjoy the sunset. So we're really trying to maximize that in all of our land holdings. Art and activations. This is the other fun stuff that Kat and her group get to do all the time, and I get voluntold to help out a lot, which is great. We are bringing a lot of history back to the site. So there's been a lot of history, whether it was labor history or maritime or industrial history that happened on the waterfront. We're trying to restore those elements, even though we're building it into the next generation of waterfront use. So we've put in statues, we put in a lot of reader boards that talk about what was previously at the site or the historical things that occurred at that site. We're building out our murals. We, of course, have a winter lighting show. It pales in comparison to the show that Chile puts on up here, but we're trying. We're creating Instagrammable moments or photo ops all throughout the area. We've built our first play set, which is primarily there to give parents a break while they're waiting for the ferry over to Jetty Island. Our splash pad is there, and I love talking about the splash pad because like I said, when we are building out new areas of development, we are really trying hard to make it so that if y'all are coming down, walking your family, getting ready for the sunset, but parents need a break and they want to go have a glass of wine or a few moments of reprieve, we're trying to build our hardscapes in there and our softscapes to always be something that families can interact with. So art installations that can be climbed on, fountains that provide nice little sound to cancel out the highway next to us, but also can be used as a splash pad. So we're trying to put those thoughtful elements in all of our development. We are bringing in a waterfront shuttle. We know that parking is a challenge on some popular nights on the waterfront. The phase 2 of our development that I spoke about a few slides back has a parking garage in it. So we kind of just have to wait to get there. But while we do, we are activating a waterfront shuttle that can bring you from our ample parking in other locations to the places where you want to go. And then signage, which a lot of people get excited about, but we have it. Future parking access, or public access. So I talked about Boxcar Park. Boxcar Park is right over here. Boxcar Park is largely just a field right now. People love to fly their kites there or run their dogs. We intend on keeping a lot of those uses, but we will be redesigning it to be a bit more of an interactive park experience for folks on the waterfront. We are building out Chamfer Woonerf. Chamfer is an old-timey marine industry job. I can't remember what it is exactly, but a Woonerf is a festival street. So we're designing a street that's going to go in between our developments that we are going to be starting to build next year, where it's designed to move cars, yes, but it's primarily designed to shut it down and turn it into a very walkable space for street fairs or craft markets or what other kind of activities we may need to support any of our other events on the waterfront. It'll be a pretty cool design, and we hope to see more of them through Washington State. We are the first festival street designation. We actually had to work with the state to figure out what that definition meant. So hopefully a Woonerf will be coming to a community near you. And then we're building out the North Esplanade, which is a part of our trail system. It's going to be a little bit different. We try to maximize all of our waterfront properties, and so we're pushing that development right up to the water's edge if we can. And we've definitely heard from the public that trails are great, but we want more trees. We want more interaction with what a waterfront landscape would actually be like. And so the North Esplanade is a temporary path right now. We are raising the site as part of our phase 2 development. And when we go back into it, we're putting in more viewpoints, and we're putting in a whole bunch of trees. We're putting in a nice calm space, which of course there will be children on scooters, so it's calm only for certain hours of the day. But it'll be a really nice path experience if you're coming down and frequently use our trails down there. This is also, I think, a really great thing that we get to offer our community. We work a lot with our business community on the waterfront, and then our talented events team. We host over 90 public events on the waterfront every year. Some of our typical standbys are our outdoor movies. It's usually windy if you arrive at 8 o'clock. The wind will always die down at 9 o'clock. So when the sun finally goes away, the wind stops, and we can put up our movie screen. So don't be discouraged. Come on down and watch a free movie. Our waterfront concert series, which I already spoke about, we host a variety of festivals. We do harbor tours to get people out on the water and take you down to our seaport in a way that you don't normally get to see it. We, of course, would host fishing derbies. We have a number of holiday events, Jetty Island Days, which kick off here pretty soon, and then we host a variety of walks and runs that are often put on by a bunch of nonprofits in the area. We're really big on workforce development too. I think, as we all have seen, there's a high demand for people with skills, and we are trying to create a pathway for folks to get experience with that. It sticks in my mind that my dad was a middle school math teacher, and I believe he's a saint now, but he I asked him why he's a brilliant mathematician. Why did you want to teach math? And why did you want to teach middle schoolers? And he loved the job, but he also told me once, he's like, well, I didn't know what else was out there. And so that's kind of stuck with me, and I appreciate working for an organization that kind of keeps that mindset that we need to create pathways for kids and students to see what is out there and on the horizon for them. We do that through a variety. We come up here all the time to be part of job fairs and school fairs. We give port tours to a whole host of groups and organizations. We start them young, and if you've been to the Everett Children's Imagine Museum, we put in a supply chain experience that kids actually really love. My children love it, where they get to figure out how much stuff they could put in a box and ship it from Japan over to the United States. And if it's cheaper to do that by boat or by air or by walking. And then there's great tugboat experience and other things that they can do as part of that. We get to host some great organizations like Everett Community College's Ocean Research College Academy, or the ORCA program. The doctor up here earlier was struggling with her acronyms, and I wanted to show some support and struggle with my own. The Maritime Institute is another organization where you may have graduated or have your GED. You may be changing your line of work and trying something different, or you missed out on an opportunity to get into maritime. These guys are helping folks get their certifications to go out there. Their job placement is pretty amazing. They are building your next generation of Washington State ferry captains, and then the people who rescue you when you're a terrible boater. And they're doing some pretty amazing stuff. Wes knows them well because he has started up I'm going to talk about it on another slide, but he's working with Maritime Institute through his work with Snow Owl Tech to get high school students access to certifications as well. And then apprenticeships, we offer a bunch of seasonal support jobs that high school students and college students can access during the summertime. Pay is great, the experience is fun, but you're also learning stuff as well. So we try to get folks into every aspect of our business and our tenants' businesses so they can learn and be ready for the workforce. As promised, Maritime High School. I am going to do this a disservice only because I haven't taken the course, but we are excited to have these guys down. Snow Owl Tech has been working with the port for a number of years to develop a high school maritime program, and it's always a question of startup funds. And when Maritime Institute moved into the port properties, it gave us another opportunity to try, and Wes took full use of it and has created the Maritime High School program. They've started their first year. How many students do you have graduating? None. 9. Okay. Whew. All right. 9. Got real nervous there for a second. It was the worst presentation ever. 9 students graduating of a pilot program with Snow Isle. And how many students were enrolled in the program? 36 next year. So pretty substantial growth. It shows people are interested in these jobs and opportunities if we give them pathways to it. So a very cool program. Talk to him about it later. I can only talk about how great it is to go to their graduations and see the stuff that they're doing. And we love taking organizations on tours of it so that legislators and others can see that these things are valuable and should be part of high school curriculums. This one I threw in last minute because I think it's important. We are, of course, a host of the FIFA World Cup this year in Seattle, as well as Vancouver. And we are, along with the city, designated a FIFA fan zone. So if you don't want to brave the Seattle traffic, and if you don't want to pay a couple $100s for tickets to a sport you played when you were 8, and are learning to come online like I am, we are hosting free watch parties that are down on the waterfront in Boxcar Park. It's got a whole host of activities for folks while they're there, as well as the game playing on big screens. The port is also activating that area for a month ahead of the FIFA fan zones, and you can definitely check these things out on our website. We are hosting a soccer float find. The float find is a very popular thing It's so popular. These little glass bulbs glass floats that are made at Shack Art Center in downtown Everett. It's so popular that staff have to hide when they go out to hide them. They use me a lot because nobody knows what I look like on the waterfront in terms of the guy hiding floats. So I go out and have a picnic. That's my thing. If you see me just randomly eating peanuts in the grass, I'm hiding a float. So that's a fun activity that's going to be happening throughout the month of June leading up to the World Cup. We are working with Summit Assistance Dogs. They're bringing Paws Up warm-up down to the waterfront where you can learn about assistance dogs. And I think there's dogs are terrible at soccer, but I believe that's what they're trying to do down there with the puppies. So you can come check that out. Everett Library is hosting Soccer Stories. That is going to be down on the waterfront as well, where the librarians are going to be reading cultural stories and folk tales from a lot of the countries that are coming to play in the World Cup. And then if that's not your lane and you want to just have good food and drink, you can also come down and enjoy the soccer-inspired menus that are happening at all of our restaurants on the waterfront. There are more opportunities. We are a government organization, so we always try to create opportunities to hear from our constituents and then the public that uses our waterfront. We have an open house on June 25th at the Pacific Rim Plaza. It's usually a beautiful night, so you can just come down and take a walk and pop into a restaurant. It's down by Hotel Indigo from 4 to 7, where you can talk to port staff directly about any of the things I talked about today or the stuff that I forgot, and I welcome you all to that. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions you may have, except about bonded warehouses. Yeah.
Well, my question is close to bonded warehouses.
Oh, no.
First of all, thank you. This is the most in-depth and entertaining presentation on the board I've seen in 9 years.
Oh, good, good. Okay.
Really nice to understand the business side, the work side, and how those dollars end up funding some of the things that we see. My question is about the exclusion zone, that you don't pay tariff until you pull things out of it, the economic zone. So if cargo lands and is put in there and say the tariff is 25% the day it lands, and the tariff drops to 10%, when it's pulled out, do you pay the lower rate, the tariff at the time it's pulled out?
So that is a good question. That is traditionally how it worked. There have been some changes. The president, through some executive orders in the last 14 months, has changed that. So in some cases, yes, when you pull your stuff out, you get charged a lower rate. In other cases, depends on what country and what product, you may still have to pay the higher tariff rate as a result.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's clear.
Anything else? Am I free? Is there still bacon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Help yourself.
Lovely.
I think, right?
Okay, thank
They'll
you very
bring
much.
another platter just for you, Adam.